I would say about 18 to 20 years ago. And I definitely had a great time. I enjoyed it. It's getting back into it has been very therapeutic for me. Sorry, it's very loud. Sorry. So TAV has been a huge help for me, and that's why I really like this program. And I wanted to give back by helping out at the fair last year. And so that's what I've been really thankful for with this program, this association. So having Sally ask me to come up here and do the demonstration for the lasers, I was very excited to do it. I had to cancel for the last one when Don was going to do his plates, but I'm super glad that I was able to work with Carolyn. So I do have this setup overall for this setup right here. Sorry, it seems very loud. Is about $300 into everything. The way I have my setup, it's kind of changed as I go through. This is a base plate for a microscope, so I can easily adjust the height of mine. I have to be 20 centimeters from the bottom of my laser to my engraved area. So this allows me to easily change that. This is called a laser pecker. This is the very first one that they had, the laser pecker one. Very inexpensive, but very portable. I can change my head to whatever I need if I need to be at an angle. The adjustability is what I really like about this. It's such a small laser. It's less than 1 watt of power. I've had a couple conversations while we were here with other people that do laser engraving. So it's been really, really nice and really fun to talk with it about what works for me and what works for other people. So the main things that I use a just a phone charger. The regular battery bank, that's how I power everything. And then I have a powered fan just to help get the smoke away from the engraved area. The other item I like to use is just a steel roll, because my headspace from the laser to my engraved surface is 20 centimeters. Having that steel rule is really nice to be able to make sure I'm exactly where I want to be. So everything I do with this is on my phone from the image I took. So at the very beginning, I asked Miss Carolyn to write her signature and her date on here so I could turn it into the engraving. So I'm going to do that on my phone. I'll have the phone down here so the camera above can see it as well. Go ahead and turn that on. All right. If you can do the overhead camera. I just took a picture. All right, so this is the app. I don't know if they. Okay, so it's good. So the app, all I'm going to do is I go into the album, and it'll take the picture. This is the picture I took. So I adjust the exposure of the image, and it kind of cleans it up. So this is very simple. This is the first thing I'm going to be engraving of hers. I'm going to auto crop it so it gets rid of all that extra white space. So it's just the item that's going to be engraved. You can also do this in a different way, and you can sign it directly onto the phone. So I can do my signature like that, and then I can turn that directly into the engraving. No, it's not one to work, but you can go directly from that. Oh, I'm going to save it. And then it goes into a pencil drawing just like that. So that itself could be engraved directly onto it. But because we want to have a little bit more of depth into the engraving, we're going to do the one that I took a picture of earlier. So, and you can see that this is the picture from the paper I'd taken that she signed earlier. And so for the size of this one, I want to go about right here. I'll start off with about 15 millimeters high. And so everything is based on proportion. So 15 millimeters high is about 30 wide. So we can actually go a little bit bigger. So it's actually got a little bit more size on it. All right, so it's running a preview of the area that's actually going to be engraved. So we can adjust the whole setup just a little bit. So we can get it exactly where we want. Can actually see it from the overhead where the laser is going. All right, would you want to do the remote camera since because where the laser head is, you can't actually see it. So you can center it. So one thing I can do is I can hit show center. And then if I wanted it directly center in the signature, I am doing on the lower half. And then the other image that I'm going to engrave is going to be on the upper half. So if you wanted it centered, what I have now is actually the center of the entire drawing. So I would adjust that to the exact center, and then I would engrave there. But so I'm just going to continue. So it runs so it will continue to run the outside path of the engraving. And so I can get that exactly where I want it. So I'm going to be centered in the bottom half is kind of where I want to be. Yes, it's running a block of the left, right, top, and bottom limits, just so that you can position it. Because if you had other engravings that you were doing and you wanted to position them in a particular way, or if you had a feature in the wood that you didn't want to cover up, or there was a nice knot that you didn't want to cover up, you could do it around that and you can move it. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and quit that.
Nahshon, before
Yes.
you start, question is from the Zoom audience is can this unit also be used for round objects?
Can be used for round objects or turned objects, but the issue you start to run into is once it changes from the surface area, because say I wanted to engrave on here on this bowl, the further I get onto the curve, the farther out of focus that laser becomes. So, and because this is all from a focal point, the laser length is even further and it skews the farther out you go. So I try and do a rule of no more than half of the diameter of whatever piece I am. So I'm only changing about 3 to 4 millimeters of depth. One of the other things that I have oh, there we are. It's a USB switch, so I'm able to turn my power on and off easily in between projects, saving my battery. And that is very nice for anything that you don't want to disconnect, because anytime I move anything up here, the reproducibility is very difficult. So I did glue a little spirit level on top of here. So that helps me, especially if I'm on a level surface, being able to make sure that I'm nice and level with the surface that I'm working with. So I am ready to go. Once I get my dimensions of the wood or of my image, go in, and then now I can set what my laser. If we can go back to the top camera. Yes. So you can, but generally I don't set a different program, so I'll use the trick of final. But you can also take screenshots of any program that you use that you can export the whatever text you created into an image. That's what you can put into here. This one is a little bit harder because making the reproducibility of the specific size for the entire area is a little bit harder, and I'm limited to a 4-inch by 4-inch. It's actually 100 millimeters by 100 millimeter workspace. So the limit there does kind of change what you can and can't do. So that's just one of the limitations that it does have. The one out there is a lot easier because I will take a picture, like I would take a picture of this bowl, and then I would make sure I send it over in the exact dimensions, and then I could align my lettering around the whatever lip I'm wanting to put it on, and then I erase that template, and then it will put it exactly where that one's at. So some of it, I'm a very cheap individual and I like to use free things. So all my software is free. I don't have to pay for any of the software, but it does make it a little bit harder to learn the software because they're not as intuitive as some of the ones that you have to pay for. All right, so for this one, this is our program after we get to where we're making the image. And this is how I select what settings the laser is going to be at. So we're going to be on our, this is a preset program. This is wood. It's 100% power for this laser and at a depth of 70%. The depth on here is just how long the laser will be on in one specific point. So it's not actually saying how deep it's going to be. It's the time that that laser is going to be burning at that particular point before it moves on to the next one. And we're only going to be doing one pass. So it's only going to go over it one time. This laser, as soon as I hit start, it'll give me some warnings. And then it will run a box of where it's going to engrave, and then it'll start to engrave from top to bottom, left to right. It'll go from left, right, and go at each line all the way down to the bottom. All right. So with this program, I don't know exactly how long it will take until it's actually done. So I'm going to turn my fan on as well. I'm not sure exactly what type it was. I found it on Amazon. If anybody's interested in this type, I can go through my cart and take a look at it. That stand has made this 10 times easier to reproduce and continue on, and as well as the microscope stand. Being able to make those easy changes is so simple, and it makes my life a lot easier being able to reproduce the thing, changing the height from one thing to the next. Yes, sir. I can put one together and share it on the Facebook page if anybody would be interested in that. What's that? Or I can send it out to the admin. They can put it on the email group or on the email string. Perfect. Yes, sir. Perfect, will do. Not everybody's on Facebook, I forget. So with this laser, I'm very limited with metals and glass, but most plastics and woods I can do. You can do leathers as well. And what's some of the other items? Like people have even done like fruits, like if they'll do like little weird, like people have done laser engravings on the outside of pumpkins. I have seen that. So they're pretty much anything except for the very hard. You can't do stones with this one. The one outside, I can do stones with that as well. I can do stainless steel. I can't cut those hard metals, but I can engrave on those hard metals. Yes, sir. Less than a watt is about 0.8 watts, and that one's about 10 watts. Yeah, so there is a huge difference in the power. This one running at 100% doesn't damage the laser. I've ran this level 100% for about the past 2 years that I've had it with no danger to the laser, because that's one of its main settings. Now with some of the other lasers that you'll see out there, you never want to run at the 100%. So usually you'll be at about 85% power for your major cuts or your very deep engravings. The biggest safety concern is eye safety. Lasers can be very dangerous for the eyes, especially anything that is reflective. So I did bring in this the orange plexiglass shield, which is similar to the glasses that I'm using as well. And then for outside, I have another set of goggles. The laser I have outside is much closer, and so it protects a lot of the laser emissions that are coming out. So the concern about being around it isn't as much as this one, because everything is open. So that's why I did bring this other item to make it a little bit easier so everybody could see as it's going. So it's actually almost done. It's been running. Where did I put my phone? There it is. So that engraving took right at 3 minutes. And so the next one will be a little bit longer. I'm going to run it. And if anybody's interested in walking up to see it, as long as that's not an issue with the camera operators, you guys can use the glasses. I'll grab the glasses from outside as well. With this laser, I do ask that you please be careful of the desk that it's on, because if it shakes, it'll turn off. And I definitely don't want to ruin her very, very nice bowl because it'll shut off in the middle and it's very difficult to start again. Yes, sir. So concern, not necessarily. I mean, there might be some fumes that would be a concern, but for me, any type of very hard finishes, lacquers and stuff like that is difficult, because you're pretty much wasting your laser's power to go through that lacquer instead of going into the wood. No, with this one, with keeping the fan on, you're not really ruining any of the finish. It does go through it. There's been a couple of pens I've turned that I'll engrave through that, and those are mainly wax and the AAA, I believe. But I haven't had any issues with it ruining the finish. But if you're wanting to finish over the top of it so you have a smooth surface and then you can see the engraving, then you would definitely want to have your finish afterwards. All right, I'm going to go ahead and get the next one set up. Colors change with those glasses on, sorry. Yes, sir. Mhm. Yes, I can. Yep. So the one outside with all the accessories that I've bought for it is about $700, and I think it's almost to the penny, because I saved up every dollar I made from selling other little projects or selling stuff that I had in my garage for 10 years that I still needed because one day I might need it. Some of that stuff I cleared out, was able to sell some stuff. And so I actually haven't spent a personal dollar of anything on most of these things, because my wife's happy when I sell crap out of my garage. So actually clears up a little bit of space. So she's happy, I'm happy. I get new toys, and sometimes she lets me play with them. So alrighty. So well, the question was, what drove me to this one? I've done research for probably about 2 years before I bought the laser, mainly because my wife said I didn't need any more tools at the time. And the only time I normally get new tools or new toys is when it benefits her. So when we're doing a wood flooring project, guess what? I get a new miter saw. Or if we're doing cabinetry, I get a new router. So finally, I was on deployment and I had a little extra money that I had stashed away from not spending on other things. So I finally got this one, but I had looked for a long time. I looked at a lot of the ones like the one outside that have the large bed with the larger capacity. And I finally came across this one. This is the laser pecker. They have a few different models now. This is the first one, and it's their smallest one. Only has a engravable area of 10 inches, or sorry, 10 centimeters by 10 centimeters, 4 inches approximately. And the power of this one is the lowest of all of theirs. The Laser Pecker 2 that came out about 2 years ago, year and a half, it is a 5-watt laser. And then they even have a new one that is a 10-watt diode laser with a 5-watt fiber laser attached to it. Yes, a lot more in price. That one I think is a little over 1,200. But a lot of what you're paying with these is the portability and the flexibility. And that's why I like this one the most, is it gives me the power to do the things I need to do with something that needs to be this portable. I carried it in a little tiny black backpack and had all of this stuff shoved inside the backpack. The portability is what sells it for me. The other one was a pain in the butt without having to take it apart. It takes up almost 2 foot by about 16 inches. So it's a lot bigger footprint. I take this down and set it up in my little crafting area that we have in our house that our Cricut vinyl cutter sits on. So I move the vinyl cutter to the back, put this in its place, and then forget that it's there. And then my wife yells at me to move it so that she can use the vinyl plotter. So let's go ahead and get this one set up. I forgot what size I was wanting to do. Oh, this was 51 centimeters. So 51 millimeters is approximately 2 inches. And we're going to set our preview to run so we can move things around. So this engraving will take a little bit longer. It'll be closer to, I think, about 6 minutes. So you will have a little bit of time to walk up. And so I do like to use the show center button because it allows me to line up with the center of the material. So I make sure my left and right limits are a little bit cleaner. So aligning it, like if, because I'm limited in my space, if I'm doing like a plaque and I'm doing 4-inch square and 4-inch square and 4-inch square, getting that alignment so that it's vertically and horizontally aligned is very difficult with this one. So that is some of the things you would have to worry about a laser as portable as something like this. All right. So I think we're about ready to start. And then I do have a set of glasses up here, and I'll grab the set of glasses from outside if you want to kind of look over to see it as well. But you can look through the protector here. So it does have a bunch of different fonts. I can actually pull those up here real quick. The only thing that's hard with the fonts that are built in so this is one of the fonts that I use a lot, but then you have a lot of different fonts that you can choose from. And then you can choose from any of the fonts that are built into your device. So you just use your system fonts. So you can use all of the different fonts at your phone. And this is available on both iOS and like the Google Play Store or whatever it is. So whatever your phone. So, and if you download different fonts to your phone, you can use those as well too. There are computer applications for it. So you can, it's not as intuitive and as easy to use as what I think the phone is, but there are computer applications to run the same laser. So you can choose your different app thing. The only issue with the fonts on here is if you do multiple rows, like you're trying to do different lines of text, it will only engrave the first one. So what I normally do is I would go into like Word document, write out exactly what you want. I make a screenshot of that and actually engrave that picture that I just took of the fonts that I wanted. And so that's a lot of what I use. All right, let me get back in so we can get that set up. Oh, fan shut down. All right, so it's starting its engrave. So if anybody's interested in taking a look at it, I do have the glasses here up at top. I'll grab the other set of goggles as well. Oh, thank you. So if anybody's interested to come see it while it's running, you are more than welcome to. So this is the SDWT logo. I did a slight modification because I did want it to show how you can add extra text to it. So it will do the engraving of the state with the star around San Diego, and then the bowl at the top with SDWT across the front of it. I'll actually show a couple of those while this is running. So I'll show a couple of the different programs that I use. So one of the programs that I use is called Adobe Capture. So Adobe Capture, it allows me to take a picture. So I'll just take a picture of the group. So now I have an SVG, an actual scalable file that I can use for engraving. I can use to create a decal or anything like that. And then you can make different edits. You can smooth it, which whenever you smooth a vectored file, it changes some of the proportions of things. So it's a lot smoother. The lines for the cut aren't as jagged, but it does change some of the overall looks. You can crop it. You can refine it. Oh, I'm sorry. So for here, if I needed to erase stuff, I could add lines. I could draw something, or done. I can erase stuff. So say there was a lot of extra noise in the picture that I didn't want to see anymore. I could easily just get rid of it. Another thing's that nice is, say you wanted to fill in an area. You saw an area that, you know what, that would look better if it was completely filled. I could then, my hand keeps drifting over to the left, sorry. I can then go into the one where I would draw. I would press and hold in a blank area. Oh, now it's not one to do it. Oh, it's not one to do it. Let me see if I can show it with a different one. This is Adobe Capture. It's only available on iOS for the iPhones. So let me pull a picture up. I think it'll work a little bit better. So this is one that I was working on for the Torrey Pines logo. That way I could do one of that. So say I wanted all the rocks to be filled in. There we go. I would then press and hold, and then now that entire rock area is all filled in. So you don't have to try and like manually fill it in. So there's a lot of different things you could do with this one. I really like it for picture areas. Like if I was want to take a picture of someone's, my neighbor has a really nice Volkswagen van. So I'm trying to work on a engraving for him for like a cutting board or something. So I could take a picture of his van, have a lot of really good details on it, and then engrave that. You can also do grayscale engravings on this. It takes a lot longer. It's the same thing on that one. It does take a lot longer because your laser is running over more areas. So you might have to clean up the image with other programs to remove background, get rid of the grays. So you just have a nothing background. So it's just a white. The other program that I use on my phone that's only available on iOS is called Vectornator. So I actually use it to create vector drawings. And what's really nice about vector drawings is you can edit the paths. So like on this one, every little node is a path that your laser or say you're on a CNC machine engraving with a router engraver. These are all your different paths, so you can make it smoother or you can make it more defined, but I can edit this directly on my phone. I also have programs on my computer that I can edit it as well, but being able to do it on my phone is nice because I always have my phone on me and I don't like working, so I'd rather do this than work. But during your lunch, I might not have my laptop with me, so I can do that. I also will use, it's like a photo sketch app. We'll just turn a regular picture into a sketch, and I can use that for engravings as well. So here's the picture that we just took, and then I can use this to kind of like what we did with the Adobe Capture, and it'll just create a sketch of that photo that we just took. So those are some of the apps I use. Magic Eraser is one of the other free apps I use, and I use that to get rid of backgrounds. So I used that when I was making this one. Let's go back and start over. And so I can use my wand. I want to get rid of all this blue in the background. I can tap and remove that blue. You can do it by area, or you know what? I want to get rid of all of the blue on this entire thing. I can tap and then it removes all of the blue that was, or that particular blue in the entire thing. Now I can make my tolerance greater or lesser. If there were like blues that were really close, but I wanted to keep those colors, I can do it that way as well. Mm-hmm. Yes, it's grayscale. So this one sucks at grayscale because it will, regardless of how well you clean up the image, it's going to go from the top left corner and a single line, and it will go every single one. So the contrast isn't as good as the one out there. I've thrown images in that one, and it's only going to engrave what it wants to engrave, and it'll change the colors as grays. But yeah, and there's a couple different ways to do grayscale. Sometimes it's almost like a pointillism painting where what I do. Oh wow, nice nose. It'll be just dots. So your laser will be and it's just laying dots. And the closer the dots are together, the darker the image in that area. So this one's actually almost done. It's getting to the Star of San Diego. And we have how much time left? We're about 93%, and it's only been a little under 8 minutes. So this will probably be about a 8.5 minute engraving. So you could definitely see the difference when I first did this. The signature, the fan wasn't on. So you saw I don't know if you guys saw the amount of smoke that initially came up. Having that fan on, it creates a cleaner image, a lot cleaner image. The best way to afterwards, after the engraving is done, if you get some acetone with a rag and just clean up. So if there's any smudge on the outside or the amount of ash on the inside of the engraving, it can clean that up, and then you're prepared to do whatever finish you need to afterwards. Yes. No, I've looked in to see if anybody has had issues with that, but I haven't, unless it's directly at the sensor or it's reflected directly into the sensor. I think that's the only time it would be of a high concern. Yeah. Well, no, if if it was a direct shot to the laser itself, but looking at the laser, no, I don't think there is. So if you had if it was on a mirrored surface and the laser went directly into the sensor of the camera, that would be the only time that I think that there would be a major concern. But just a videotaping, I've done it with my cameras and my wife's Canon. I've done pictures of it because I do a lot of time-lapse photos of it, like sped up, so I can an hour engraving in 2 minutes. And we haven't had any issues. I haven't heard anything in the forums of people having issues with photographing or video recording them with actually damaging the equipment. All right, so this one did finish. If anybody's interested in taking a look at it, you guys are more than welcome. And that concludes my portion of the demonstration. Are there any other questions? Oh, yeah. Is it upside? Oh, it was right side up for me.
That looks fabulous.
Yeah. Thank you guys. I really appreciate taking the time.